And hello, everybody. It is Monday at 7 o'clock. I thought Bailey and I would do a show of Steel Rails podcast tonight. Lucas is at work, so he can't join us, but Bailey thought we'd come on and talk about our favorite diesel locomotives, just kind of as a side topic and to get the Steel Rail podcast going. So let's go ahead and bring Bailey in. Bailey, how you doing this evening?
I'm tired.
Stop working so much.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
So this episode 2 of Steel Rails podcast, woohoo!
Right.
I think we have a way to catch up to Heist.
Yeah.
So so I was saying it was just you and me tonight. I guess Lucas is working.
He gets to work at FedEx.
Oh,
Sucker.
really? Someone told him that was a good idea, I take it?
No, that's just where he chose to work at, fool.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, you know what? I am not representing enough. One sec.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah, there we go.
The only railroad to never go bankrupt.
Right. I mean, they did
So for everyone who likes Union Pacific,
right. So if you want to get that when it goes up. So yeah, I figured we would come on today. Well, you and I had talked about this idea before, but coming on and talking about our personal favorite diesel locomotives. And I suppose it'll be easier without Lucas here because he's more of a steam guy than a diesel locomotive guy. But
yeah, except I finally got him a modern train because his birthday's on the 17th. So I gave him my SD90 Mac model.
Oh, nice.
So he has a Kato SD90 43 Mac.
Nice. Well, and Kato is a good brand to start out with. So I was looking at my I've got 2 different Bachmann HO scale SD40s.
Nice.
There's a size difference between a DC SD40 Bachmann and a DCC SD40 Bachmann.
Well, while we're talking about that, I may as well get out the things that I have to help people understand what we're talking about.
Right.
Because I just have that money apparently.
And if we have it, we can't keep it in our pockets.
Right. If it's not tools, it's trains.
Right. Yeah, I think we're addicted. Just a little.
Yeah, well, at least we're not sitting in our house being bored all the goddamn day.
Right.
Okay, so locomotives we are going to talk about. All of them are very, very influential to American railroading in one way, shape, and form. We have the SD45, the SD60, the DDA40X, and the SD80 Mac. All of them are interesting. All of them have their weird quirks and interesting tidbits of history. And we're all going to go through these locomotives, and I have brought out models for the ones who are uninitiated to show them what exactly these locomotives look like, which is amazing because I'm also bringing out for the SD60 my only demonstrator unit. I have a demonstrator SD60. So we'll tell you, all of you, how you spot these things in the wild and what ways you can tell what locomotive they are. One locomotive we will be talking about you will not ever see in the wild, as they are either scrapped or being used as parts locomotives. Unfortunately, that is the SD80 Mac. However, the other 3 you can indeed see. Most of them you'll have to go to Class 2 railroads. There are still some Class 1s that use these. But the newer locomotives are usually more powerful. Blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
Another locomotive you will see much more regularly, even though it only has. So the locomotive you'd have to see on a Class 2 is the SD45. The SD60 is much easier to be seen, even though it only has 200 more horsepower than the SD45, which that's just interesting.
Right.
Um, and then the other one is if this locomotive didn't exist, it wouldn't have made the SD40-2 as successful as it is currently. And that is the DDA40X. It's also the largest diesel locomotive we'll be talking about. Not only is it the largest diesel locomotive in America, it is also the largest diesel locomotive ever made.
Correct.
And I have models of all of them. And if you're curious, when you look at my models, just know that you'll be staring at a nearly or a little bit more than $1,000. So if you want to know how I spend my money, there you go.
Right.
Fight, and if you don't like it, bite me. Um, but yeah, that's basically what we'll be talking about. Uh, I'll be speaking on the DDA40X and the SD45 as well as the SD60. And uh, Chris, even though all you don't realize that I call him Conrail because of his initials, Conrail will be talking about the DDA40X and the SD45. So
Correct.
if you want to take it away, because I'll be sitting here for 3 days with the only person alive in the chat being Conrail and everyone dead. Um, Go ahead.
Right. All right. Well, if show and tell be damned, I got something cool. Let me bring it up. So I put together, well, my
By the way, one of these guys. So, you know,
right.
so this is what it looks like. You have the side here. You have the ass end. This is how you actually tell what they look like if you look at the ass end of them. But there's that. So now that we've seen that, I can put that away, which this is going to be a pain in my ass, but whatever. Yeah.
So it 5,000 horsepower, and that's I was trying to look at the other ones, and I don't. Well, let me look at the X-ray and see where I had.
5,000 horsepower 710 engine.
Yeah,
It's the only version of the 710 that has a V20, which,
right.
that's special.
So its nickname is the Conrail Cadillac because basically um, Conrail was the only railroad to purchase these.
Yep.
Although they did wear other railroad colors. This
Hmm.
was only initially bought by Conrail. Um, and let's see, the specs are its engine is a EMD 265H. It's a 16-cylinder two-stroke diesel engine. Like I said, the horsepower is 5,000.
So for the ones who are again on initiative, this is basically a 710 engine. It's just that it is a V20 instead of being a V16 like the 710G normally is. So yeah, that's basically what it is.
Correct.
For all the ones who are curious.
The prime mover in it, like I said, is the EMD 265H. Now, a thing that I found interesting about this is the tractive effort. Um, I really haven't seen a lot of stats on other ones when I was looking this up as far as tractive effort, but from starting, it's got 205,000 pounds of starting tractive effort with
Mhm.
167,000 pounds continuous. So, I mean,
For the people who don't know, um, 205,000 foot-pounds of tractive effort starting. That is that is a little over 70,000 foot-pounds of tractive effort more than 4014, the Union Pacific Big Boy,
Right. And I
which
mean,
is unbelievable.
if you look at the type of cargo that these things are pulling and the general number of cars in a consist, they're going to need that much tractive effort to get it started.
Hmm.
Um, so the wheel arrangement is a 6-axle. Its maximum speed in miles per hour was 75. For all them Canucks, it's 120 kph. The weight is approximately 420,000 pounds, and the fuel capacity was 5,500 gallons. I don't know if that's correct spec, but that's what I had found.
Hmm.
I don't know why that seems off to me in my head, but
Well, because you're used to 325 only having 4,000 gallons. We don't actually have a locomotive that's bigger than 325. So,
right. I mean, and these are, this is a road locomotive, so you wouldn't see this, other than shutting down or shunting. You won't see this in a yard.
no.
These were mainly out on the main line pulling freight daily. And I'm trying to remember what other railroads this went to after Conrail. I know that,
It was
um,
CSX and Norfolk Southern.
yeah, Norfolk Southern and CSX did get some of them. Well, the majority of them. Uh,
Chicken Shit Express and Nazi Southern got them.
right. I had spec. Well, there was another couple of specs on there that didn't make it into the PowerPoint. So let me just. Um, that I thought were interesting.
Hmm.
So like I said, fuel capacity is 5,000 or 5,500 gallons. Length is 73 feet 2 inches. Height is 15 feet 6 inches. Width is 10 feet 4 inches. Production years was 1995 to 1996. So, just about a year of production, maybe a little
Which
bit more.
is amazing considering 30 were made.
Right. There's only 30 of them. So,
But yeah, but that's 30 in a year, dude. That's
yeah, and you got to think that they had to have production facilities that were tooled up just for this locomotive
yes.
for 1 year.
Yep.
And it's not like they're selling the tooling off to another company so they can make more. As soon as they're done, those tools disappear.
Hmm.
So, um, it is a rare, in all intents and purposes, a rare locomotive.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, you won't see them in the wild. They're all either scrapped or I don't know of any in private hands.
There is none. The only ones that are currently still around are the ones that are being used as parts for Canadian Pacific. So
It would be interesting to see one fall into a heritage museum.
it's not going to happen. You already know it.
Right. Yeah.
The problem with an SD80 Mac is, first off, why do you need something that big?
Right.
It's literally the same reason why it would be eventually the reason why the DDA40X that we're about to talk about no longer runs, because again, it's why do you need something that big?
Right.
The big boy makes sense because when it was made during World War II, which obviously, yes, you need something that big, but in
Correct.
peacetime, you don't need that.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of these were made well, except for the Mac. Mac was
Well, I
made
mean that.
peacetime.
I mean, yeah. The Mac just is a different. It's just there's the Ace and the Mac is literally just the front end of a locomotive. That's all it is.
Right.
So the other thing that's interesting about these locomotives is if I can remember correctly, they were the first ever EMD locomotives. If I remember, I might be wrong, but they are the first EMD locomotives to use AC traction motors.
I think so.
So there's that.
So
Do
that
we
is
want to
the
do what locomotive we want to do next?
yeah, I can do the
And
the DD A40X. I've got that next.
okay, so we're all right, so we're gonna be doing this for a while then.
Yep.
um, so DDA40X, time to make Chris really jealous.
Yeah, he knows I really want one.
If anyone's curious, this thing is $534 in my hand.
And
So
where
the
did you get that one
DDA40X,
from?
Hub Hobby.
Right. Shameless plug,
So
Hub Hobby. There you go.
exactly. So this is the front end of a DDA40X. It's actually the first ever locomotive in America to use a safety wide cab, which never took on until about maybe the 80s, which is weird. The thing that makes the DDA40X really, really special is the fact that it has D trucks, which means that there are 8 wheels in 4 axles in the front and the back.
Hmm.
But the thing that's unique about this locomotive is right here is a prime mover, and right here is a prime mover, here and here, which means that you have two 645 V16 turbo diesels. The back one here runs the back trucks here, and the front run runs the front trucks. So each truck gets 3,300 horsepower for a
Right.
grand total of 6,600 horses.
Which is just mind blowing. So yeah,
These
like
locomotives, the locomotives as well, also had this on them. I'll pull it up so you can see a little bit better. They had this green coloring on top of it to stop the sunlight from reflecting into the glass because they thought that would be a problem.
right.
You can even see it in the photo that's there. Um, this locomotive is very, very well. It's known as the big boy of the diesel class. Um, Locomotive itself, usually they would have been armed with. There were most of them had RS3L horns or RS5Ts. However, 6924 is the only DDA40X in existence to have if I remember correctly, a Carter air raid siren, because that's a good idea, especially
Right.
when these locomotives were made during this weird thing in American history known as the Cold War.
I thought I had a
So
picture of 6924 there for a second, but it's not.
what is that one? 6929 or something like that?
Uh, it looks 6938.
All right. So there was over 40 of these guys made. They did their job dutifully. They did a very good job of what they were designed to do. Just again is the problem of why you will not see an SD80 Mac. If one prime mover failed on a DDA40X, that engine's
Mm-hmm.
dead now.
Right.
It all goes down to the whole point of you have a locomotive that's gigantic and you have it pulling one train, but then an engine dies or something happens to it and now the train's stalled.
Right.
So that's the main issue in that story.
So yeah, and I was kind of looking at this picture. It almost looks like it's part of the excursion train because if you look past the front coupler, that
Mm-hmm.
looks like the tender to the big boy.
No, that would either be a water tank for because of the photo is a little aged. and Big Boy
Right.
never ran with a DDA 40X. That's either the water tender to 844 3985, or that
Mhm.
is the fuel tank for a GTEL.
Oh, that would make sense. G-Tails.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that we should do sometime.
Meanwhile, everyone in chat, when they hear the two railroad guys say GTEL, they have zero idea what that means if
What
they
the
don't
what?
already know. A
Right.
GTEL, or gas turbine electric locomotive. That's what it is. They actually use jet engines on the railroad.
Well, they also had steam powered turbines too
Yep.
before the G-Tails.
Yeah.
But those
Chesapeake and
didn't work
Ohio,
out
if I
so
remember.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, and the G-Tails also, if they sometimes they'd start perfectly fine, and other times they'd fart out a massive flaming cloud of crap.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, there's that.
Because basically what a G-Tail is you're taking like maybe like an engine from a 707 or something like that and stuffing it in a locomotive.
Yep.
So, all the problems that the aircraft turbines had, now it's on, a set of rails.
Mm-hmm.
So they did see usage, but they stopped at some point because it was deemed too expensive, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, coming back to the DDA 40X, and some people might think, well, why is there an X on there? Well, because it was experimental.
Every
Um,
single one of these locomotives were experimental.
yep.
That's
So
why for
that's
anyone, that's why for anyone who thinks that they're the greatest locomotive in history is the SD40-2, you're wrong, because if the DDA 40X didn't exist and EMD never used it with Union Pacific at the time and learned what they needed to learn with the electronics that were on the DDA 40X, there would be no such thing as a SD40-2.
right. So, like you were saying, its power plants, it had twin 16 cylinder EMD 645 E3s. Horsepower was 6,600 combined. That's
Mm-hmm.
with both going. Now, if they had a problem and they only had one going, well, A, it wouldn't move. But B, you would only get 3,300 horsepower out of the engine that was started.
Mm-hmm.
The prime movers, like we said, are the EMD 16 645 E3s. Tractive effort to start is 180,000 pounds, and continuous is 160,000 pounds. So a little bit more than the Conrail Cadillac, but I definitely think that's what they were going for, because they didn't know, they were thinking at this time bigger is better. Well, and that's funny because if you look at the time frame where the SD80 Max were built, I said what,
Mm-hmm.
95, 96.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the production years for the DDA 40X, we're talking 1969 to 1971.
Yep.
So in that time frame, you've got 180,000 pounds starting and 160,000 continuous, whereas further in future, 96, 95, 96, we're looking at, let me pull my numbers here, 176,000 continuous and 205,000 starting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of weird to me because it's like, you think it would be the other way around. Whereas if you
Mm-hmm.
were building something in 69 to 71, you would have the lower set of numbers on that one and then the higher set of numbers, later, years later on down
Well,
the
I
road.
mean, at the same time, the other problem is that this is the '60s where this is the time in the '60s where you had basically the way that you made power was make more bigger, Whereas in the 90s, you can make more power by having a sophisticated like injector system that injected
Right.
fuel at a much more efficient way, and you may not generate as much horsepower because of the single engine, but you're producing more tractive effort. The thing people don't understand about diesels and gas is gas relies on its horsepower and diesel relies on its torque.
Hmm.
So you could have a diesel engine that is 45 horsepower, but 250 million pounds of fucking tractive effort,
Yeah.
and it'll pull everything, but it'll do it at like 5 miles an hour or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So that was the tractive effort on it. The wheel arrangement was a DD or 8 axle.
Mm-hmm.
Maximum speed was 80 miles an hour, and for you Canucks, that's 130 kph. Um, so as far as weight for the whole unit, we're looking 544,000 approximate pounds. Fuel capacity is 8,000 gallons. 8,000 gallons of diesel.
Well, I mean, if there's anyone that comes here that was on like USSI where they're gonna hear 8,000 gallons of diesel and just laugh.
Right.
So I mean, that's big, but at the same time, there's always going to be something bigger.
Yeah, well, right. So a length, we're looking 98 feet, 5 inches. Height, we're
This
looking
thing,
16. What's that?
this thing, guys, was almost 100 feet long.
Yeah, it was huge and not articulated either. So
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of the trucks themselves. They are articulated.
right, yeah, as
They are
far
the
as
they are the articulation that we're talking here.
yeah,
So
but I mean,
technically, no. In articulation, only manner. The problem with articulation is that requires the frame to turn. Well, that would mean no diesel is articulated, even though the
right,
trucks articulate.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So the articulation, what we're talking about is it's being able to move. The truck is being able to move and conform to the curve of the track.
mhm,
Which you really, and like we said, the trucks are on a single axle pivot, so they're going to do that
mhm,
anyway. But like I was saying, is like the big boys, they're um, the front truck on the very front of the locomotive,
mhm.
just behind the cow catcher, was articulated itself.
One of my favorite movies, and it always helps me so that people can understand the articulation. It is a movie made in the 60s by Union Pacific about the big boy. It was called Last of the Giants.
One of my
And
favorites.
one of the quotes that I remember from it is the announcer saying, "A particular sight from one of these machines is the reluctant manner of the long, rigid boiler following the free swinging engine around a curve."
Right?
Because the truck turns and the boiler keeps going straight until the roller bearing pin flexes as much as it can, and then you'll watch as you have something that looks like this, if you can see. Let's say this is the boiler, and let's say this here is the actual truck. You have it look like this. Boiler's going this way,
Right.
and this truck is going this way.
Yep.
So it literally looks like this.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold. I
which
mean,
is amazing when you consider that the person who originally developed the first ever articulated locomotive, which is interesting as well, his name was Anatole Mallet, and he was Swedish, not Swedish, he was Swiss,
mhm,
and he came up with it because they were having the same freaking problem on the European railroads.
right.
Very, very brilliant man. And he probably, with his designs, he probably made millions in Europe for it.
Mhm.
There's no way this man went bankrupt instantly. This man had
No.
a vision, and he followed that vision, and eventually, most of the railroads that were there, they used it, but eventually in America saw the potential in it that the Europeans didn't, and bought the patents to create Malays, which is why
Right.
they're called that. The other thing that's interesting about the Malays is the fact that everyone looks at it and pronounces it correctly. But if you actually look at the pronunciation of Malay in America, it is almost like you're saying mallet.
Yeah.
So there's that.
It's a French thing.
Swiss thing.
Yeah. Well.
There's
All
a
right.
difference.
I'm sure
One
there is. Look it up.
one retreats unnecessarily, and the other one makes a decent knife.
Right.
And for all the people that are French, if you're in the French comment, it is not my fault that my German ancestors went through your country. It's not my problem.
Want a French rifle? Only dropped
Right.
once.
Right.
So length on the DDA 40X was, like we said, almost 100 feet, 98 feet, 5 inches. Height on that bad boy is 16 feet, 7 inches. And the width on it was the 10 feet, 2 inch. So you said that was the safety cab, correct? The white safety cab?
Yep.
And that's where you're going to see that difference. Whereas if I go back and look at the specs for the Conrail Cadillac, well,
the Cadillac also had a safety.
safety cab.
That's
So
at the time when the safety cab, kind of took over the standard cab.
okay,
Standard cabs died off in about they started to die off in the early 80s when it was realized that the cab for a standard cab locomotive did not provide enough vision.
right,
So that then they started going with the original safety cab that the DD840X had, and it was quickly seen that the vision problems were resolved fairly quickly. So
right.
there's that.
And then the production years on the X-Ray was 1969 to 1971,
Mm-hmm.
and total units built was 47.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and like you said, there would not be a GP40 TAC 2
Mm-hmm.
if the DDA wasn't made,
Mm-hmm.
because they learned it was a learning curve. It was teething time for EMD. And like you've said before, Union Pacific has a hard on for EMDs.
That's saying it very lightly. EMD has a crack addiction to EMDs. That's what they have.
Right.
It's like imagine a US president having a crack addiction and paying millions of dollars for cocaine that's illegal, but since he's the president, who cares? That's
Right.
Union Pacific with EMDs in the 60s.
So and
Like
yeah,
it could have literally sucked, and they'd be like, I don't care, we're gonna buy it, suckers.
yeah. Well, and it's like, they kept EMD afloat because they were the number one railroad that did business with EMD.
Mm.
Whereas, and it's not to say that there's not other companies out there that aren't buying from EMD, because they
Mm.
are. But pretty much they would, I don't know if this happened, but I have a feeling where EMD decided to make this and went, well, I wonder if Union Pacific wants to try it. Give them first crack at it.
Mm. Which is hilarious because of the 47 DDA40Xs that were built. Union Pacific was the only ones to run them.
Right.
Like I said, crack addiction.
Yeah.
Same.
So that was what I have for the two that I was presenting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I didn't make a
and
PowerPoint because I'm going to use my vast wealth of knowledge on these two locomotives.
well, and folks got to realize that the people in chat. I'm relatively new into this. Yeah, it's a hobby, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I just started last year with model trains and learning everything, and I'm getting to the level where Bailey is, but it's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I will be just as nerdy as he is. So
Well, I mean, the
it's
thing
good.
is, here's the thing, right? The reason I know so much about trains is I was exposed at the age of 2 to a railroad that unfortunately is no longer around anymore. I remember this clear as day. We were on Proctor Hill in Duluth in 2002, and I was exposed to a railroad known as the Duluth Mesabi and Iron Range. There were three SD40-3s that were climbing the Proctor Hill. This hill is a 3% rail gradient for 3 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the sound of 9,000 horsepower on its knees at 5 miles an hour up the hill. It is
Right.
so loud you can't even hear the freeway that's behind you.
Yeah. And if
And
if if people want to see that, just Google Proctor Hill and the DM&IR, and it will pop up.
and it's unbelievable the actual sound of these things. It's it is there's a video that I've seen. All you have to do is just do this. SD38 DM&IR Notch 8. That's the best way to for this video, and I can send it to you, Chris, if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, you see two SD40-3s that are tunnel motors. Actually, they were not called tunnel motors, however,
Right.
um, and an SD38. And there, you're watching this hill that's going up literally like this. It is, to understand a 3% grade, it would be the equivalent of you in your house in your basement, and you have a couch in the basement, and you have to lug that thing up the stairs without any help. That is what those
Right.
locomotives are dealing with. So you have a freeway that is in front, and you can watch cars just going past and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then and all you hear is the sound of V16s shrieking as they're climbing this hill, and they're drowning out the freeway that's right in front of the camera.
Right. So it's kind of like when we're sitting in the museum and we see TC and W just cannonballing it down the track.
Yeah. And the thing is that I was born in 97. So let's see here, 2002 and 97, that'd be 98, 99, 2000, 2001. So I'd be about 6-ish,
Mm-hmm.
roughly, that I was watching this. And from 2002 until 2023, I've been a rail fan for, that would be 21 years now. So,
Right.
so now, since it's my turn to do the SD60 and the SD45,
Go
I
for
get to
it.
show I get to show people how much of a nerd I am.
Nerd.
Exactly. Let's do the SD60 first. Now, if you're a rail fan and you look at this locomotive that I'm holding in my hands right now, this looks exactly like an SD40. There's a way you tell the difference, though, is that when it passes you, the first thing that'll come out of your mouth, if you're a rail fan, you know what an SD40 looks like. You'll say, that's the largest SD40 I've ever seen, because it's not. It's an SD60.
Right.
Here's your front of the SD60. This is, in fact, the demonstrator paint scheme for the SD60. A demonstrator paint scheme means that this is basically a brand new car kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
However, these also came with a full tank of fuel, and the engine full of water and oil, because we use water instead of coolant. And these are used by EMD as a test bed to show new buyers what they are capable of. That is the whole point of a demonstrator unit.
Right. So it's
The
basically like either a rental car or a lease unit that
Yes.
they would if a company was looking for at this new product, they could, give it to them for a couple of months or a year
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, try it out, see what you think, and if you like it, we can
Let
work
us
with you."
know.
Right.
Now, oh shit, I almost dropped it. Um,
Couldn't do that.
no, I don't want to do that. So the SD60, I think I have the wrong box. No, I don't. Never mind. Um, the SD60 was a design to remedy this thing that EMD did to all their buyers with the SD50. The SD50 is one of the worst locomotives EMD ever created, and in fact, might just be the worst. Um, and what happened was is that EMD felt terrible because, well, the EMD guys felt terrible. GM didn't give a damn, and what happened was is that EMD remedied this problem to a degree, even though the damage was already done. They remedied this problem and created the SD60. The SD60 is the first ever locomotive to use the brand new EMD 710 engine.
Mm-hmm.
So the SD60 was a locomotive that had a V16 two-stroke turbo diesel that produced 3,800 horsepower. I don't know the tractive effort on it because I didn't look and I did put a presentation together. And if I go out of the thing, I would leave the stream because that's just how that shit works. But whatever. I think it's around like 117,000 if I remember correctly. So it is
Mm-hmm.
powerful. It's just that
Yeah.
basically the SD60 was designed as a stopgap for the SD70 when it was coming, as well as the SD80. Um, the SD60 was kind of a locomotive that could be used on like a class one to supplement an SD40-2, or if it
Mm-hmm.
was a class two that was wealthy enough to purchase one, it could be a locomotive that they could just use as that. It would be a one locomotive, be powerful enough to take care of their duties and all that kind of stuff. Um, they
Right.
made a general purpose version of the SD60. It's called the GP60. Basically, if you ever want to see what a GP60 looks like, just go look at the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. They ran the majority of GP60s and GP60Ms. Um, they are famous for their war bonnet paint scheme in the late 80s, early 90s with ATSF. Um, They SD60s, of course, because Union Pacific has a crack addiction to EMD at the time. Of course,
Right.
UP puts in another order for SD60s because why not, right? You just
Yeah.
got all that money that's just floating around. You have nothing to do with. Oh, it's almost like being like finding out that your favorite magazine just created another subscription, and Union Pacific's
Right.
like, oh shit, shell out the money, shell out the money. Um, But that's basically the SD60 for you. The easiest way to tell what an SD60 is that there's two easy ways. Notice if it's the largest SD40 you've ever seen, and if you know the sound of an SD40's engine, listen to the 710 engine. It's a lot quieter, but it
Right.
is also has a lot more of a bass. Like it's almost as like someone cranked the bass up really high,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's idling. If an SD40 idles, it sounds kind of like a jet engine, but when an SD60 idles, you can actually hear what sounds like a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an easy way to tell which is which. Next one is the SD45 in Great Northern paint scheme.
That is a paint scheme that you and I are both familiar with.
Maybe because it's 325. That's about 10 minutes away from where I live. Just saying.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
saying.
right.
Which is hilarious because she's currently suffering loading problems. So, that's fun. But
Right.
here's the front end. This is the classic standard cab VMD, staple of the EMD in the 60s. The awesome looking rear flared radiators.
Yeah,
This
that
is
is
an
so
easy
cool.
way. This right here is an easy way to tell if you're looking at an SD45. Um,
Iconic.
Another way to tell is if you can see them, the radiators. It has the same amount of radiators as an SD40-2 and an
Mm-hmm.
SD40. So if you can see those as well as this, you're staring at an SD45. Now, the problem with the SD45 is this is the first time that GM finally showed that EMD had some issues. This was rushed as a half-assed attempt to try to rival GE's U36s. Um, so what EMD did was is that they took the 645 prime mover, gave it 4 extra cylinders, making it a V20, and
Mm-hmm.
then they what they did was is that they I'm gonna put this away because it's heavy. Um, the what they did was is they didn't really test anything because they thought that the 645 would be able to handle this. Newsflash, it didn't. Um, and what ended up happening was is that you had the EMD 645 prime mover would start having issues like there was a lot of mechanical problems. The number one mechanical problem that happened is it was not uncommon for SD45s to just start deciding when it's time to snap their crankshafts in half, which that
Huh.
means the engine dead. The engine dies
Right.
when that happens. Um, so that's
I mean,
exactly the
good
same thing that
short
happened
torque,
to
but
I mean, yeah, it's good short torque, but that's also the problem. Um, Speaking of snapping its crankshaft in half, hey, Hustle Muscle,
how are
Hustle
them
Muscle
growing
snapped her
pains?
crankshaft in half.
Right.
Um, Now the other thing that people is that a lot of people, if you know the history behind it, they say that Hustle Muscle, that the BNSF snapped her crankshaft. That is not true. The Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say this: MTM killed her crankshaft.
Yep.
So Minnesota Transportation Museum is where me and Chris and a bunch of our other friends volunteer at. Luckily for us, it is in much better hands because it is with people that are, younger and much more driven and just love railroading as well. The old
Mm-hmm.
group, which we will not talk about, the old group were very, very more steam locomotive centered, and they kind of half-assed their repairs to the point where they damaged Hustle Muscle's crankshaft to a point where it was about to go anyways. And during a load test with BNSF in 2019, Hustle Muscle's crankshaft decided to basically decided to leave chat.
You're right.
Like, see ya. Um,
Yeet.
Now, of course, BNSF didn't realize that MTM fucking broke it, and I still don't think they do. So, um,
Right.
but they felt terrible that they broke Hustle Muscle, which, by the way, is the first ever production model of the SD45 that was bought by the Great Northern in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
So, give you an age of that locomotive, which is hilarious because 325 our SDP40 was built side by side next to Hustle Muscle. So
Correct.
we not only do we have Hustle Muscle, we also have 325. It's always really great when you're a rail fan and you have sister locomotives that still work.
Right.
Um, but BNSF felt terrible that they snapped the crankshaft, even though that was MTM's problem. And they took an Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe SD45-2, took its prime mover out, completely refurbished it, and gave Hustle Muscle the SD45-2 prime mover, which is an updated version of the 645 V3. Um,
Right.
so the other problem that SD45s had an issue doing is over time, this would happen later. The immense torque of the engine would actually start flexing the frame.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So you have an engine that's so powerful that it's literally torquing the frame as it applies load,
Right.
which, that's fun.
Right.
Um, but Hustle Muscle is unique in the fact that its frame is totally fine, even though of all the times that it probably was torqued to an inch of its life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what they did was is that they gave it an SD45-2 prime mover. There's a uniqueness in why this is good. It gives it a strengthened billet crankshaft, so her chance of snapping her crankshaft is no more.
Nice.
So
Now,
that's the SD45 for you.
yeah. So I had a question on the 45s. So our 325 had a steam generator at one point, correct?
Yep.
Now, did the 45s have steam generators too if they were the passenger
Yes.
model?
Yes, they
Okay.
would have.
No, ours 325 doesn't have it currently, correct?
No, it's gone.
Okay.
It's actually
Um
used as a storage area for us.
oh, gotcha. And
Mm.
people might be confused about what we're talking. If you look at our page that we have up right now, the upper top right hand corner, that is the picture of 325.
Mm.
Before she had, I think that was probably right after restoration before we got her.
Mm.
Because I'm
No,
not
the
seeing.
picture above there. No, the picture above there is when she went to after she got painted at Relco.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
The one
So
you
that would have
have.
been,
The one that we
yeah,
have, the one we have on Jackson Street's website, that's when we got her.
right. And that was what, 3 weekends ago already? Almost a month.
Yeah, so 325 came from Relco. Thank you, BNSF. You're great. Came from Relco all the way through Gales, I think it's Galesburg, Iowa or something like that.
Yeah.
And then went all the way up to downtown St. Paul. We got her on a Thursday night when BNSF Local was doing switching for the glass plant that's right
Hmm.
next door. And apparently, the story goes that they arrived really late at night. And luckily for us, our superintendent and one of our mechanics were on duty at that time. And they heard a couple horn blasts. They looked outside, and there is a black object illuminated by the ass end lights of an SD75M. And they realize what the hell, and they go run up, and there's 325 sitting there with
And oh,
BNSF officials going like, "Hey, want to take this from us?" So apparently the story goes we had to fire up a tiny little one of our tiny 45 tonners, turn it on the turntable, run it all the way down to the end, pick it up, pull 325 in.
jeez.
Yep.
And more than likely, that was General Ben that got the call on that one, huh?
Of course it was General Ben because General Bob right now has a shit traction motor. Yeah, about that.
Right.
It's just
So,
like you can't even win. Jesus.
right. Well, and of course, I haven't been out to the museum in about 3 weeks. I actually found out that I got a bum back right now, dealing with
Mm-hmm,
spinal stenosis and some nerve pain. I'm
mm-hmm,
I'm just taking some time, to get it done right. I might. Who knows? They're telling me either PT or surgery, so I'm hoping for just PT, and I can get back into the shop and have the
mm-hmm.
younger guys do all the lifting. I have a
Yeah,
feeling it
that's
was
how
the
that
loader.
works.
I have a feeling it was the loader tire that did my back in.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm trying to get back to that.
That just means that you can file for more disability. Problem solved.
Right.
Yeah, now I have a bum back. Can you give me more money, please?
To which I'm going to spend at Hub Hobby
Right,
or Ingersoll Rand. Hit me up.
right. No, it's hilarious because at the site it was great because on Saturday we had we were just I arrived with Lucas, and there's of course the blacksmiths and the welders, and they're just sitting there, and there's just big ass cloud of smoke coming out of their mouth from their cigars and in their pipes just sitting there. It's like, yes, this is 1936 all over again. Look at that. Ain't that wonderful?
Right.
When the only thing we're worried about right now is cancer and black lung.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because the entrance to the museum, there is a huge picture from the 30s from all
Yeah, from
the staff.
36. There's 2526 that's in the painting in the photo, and you look at these guys and you just go, okay, so half these guys died of black lung, half these guys died of chain smoking, and all of them died from both. So,
Right. Well, and you and I were
and
looking at it.
there's even a couple guys that are smoking pipes in the photo as well,
Yeah,
which makes it
right.
interesting. Just
Yep.
like, yes.
So it's not, it's not uncommon to when you and I show up,
Mm-hmm.
in the morning on Saturdays to see guys with a pipe or a stogie,
You mean like
pre-shift.
you and me, right?
Right.
Now, the one thing that I do have here that I know for a fact will make you very, very jealous is this.
Oh, no, you don't.
So this is a Great Northern Railway #2 coal scoop.
Right. Or frying pan.
Yeah. What does this say right here? See if I
I
can get
can't
it in
see.
there.
Uh, Northern Pacific
328.
328. No kidding.
I engraved that in her honor.
Wow. That's cool.
It took a lot of grinding of surface rust. This thing only has surface rust problems. It doesn't actually have rust eating through the metal problems.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, and of course that's that's the thing about being a mechanic at a heritage site is the collections that we start.
Right.
I have a small collection. In part, thank you to Bailey and some other guys. So I have a collection of screws and nuts and bolts from
Oh, you
two.
mean like these?
Yes, correct. So I have screws from a passenger car, and I have nuts and bolts from 325,
Nice.
which I have a feeling that is going to be my start, and it's going to balloon way out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like my addiction to
Cigars.
railroad models. Well, I mean, cigars don't stay around here that
Hey,
much.
just remember. So you have all your railroad models, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I have this.
Yeah, you jerk. At some point in time, I do want, and what he's holding there is a railroad model of the big boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of my holy grail pieces that I am looking for. Now,
Mm-hmm.
which of the three scales that I run am I going to get it in? I have no
Get
clue.
it in G scale.
Actually, I was thinking about that, but I don't know if
I mean,
it would make the
hey,
curve
that's only $3 or $4 grand. Who cares?
right. I don't know if it would make the curves on our layout at the museum.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll
If it
build
just
them bigger. Hey, we'll
if it
build them
just
big. Hey,
eats itself off the track, we're all good.
one of the guys that was there, he ran a Mallet, a USRA Mallet on there, and it ran pretty okay.
Okay, I think that was Matthew.
Yeah.
Which funny. So Matthews, and there's a bunch of us that run on that G scale layout that a lot of the things that people come in and see on that layout are club owned by us club guys.
Oh yeah.
And then another part of it is a lot of those are from our own private collections.
Yes.
Matthew has us all done over on how many personal pieces that he has in his collection.
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not, he's probably got closer to $1 million invested in personal
Mm-hmm.
collection in G scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I was it was funny because I was trying to come up with a base amount of, okay, what do I have invested in the 3 scales? And I was like I was trying to figure out my N scale stuff, and it's like, well, who knows, because I have a layout at home. So
Mm-hmm.
not only am I invested in the models, but I've probably got a couple hundred in uh um, the table, the
Mm-hmm.
craft supplies, the power packs, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was going through my stuff today, and I've got two drawer filing cabinets just full of N scale stuff, and it was like I looked at the one and I'm like, okay, I know the top drawer on this are all my models. And I'm like, what's the bottom drawer on this? And I pull it open and it's all of the plastic packs full of like telegram posts and like 4 packs of road signs and all this. And I'm like,
Whoopsies.
never gonna use this.
Well, now you are.
Right? Yeah, I gotta figure that out. So we're coming up. Well, actually, we're just a little over our 1 hour mark.
Rip.
It's actually easy to sit here and geek out and talk about things. So I'm maybe thinking. I was trying to figure out what we should do for the next show, and I know earlier when we kind of mentioned the G-Tels, I was maybe thinking on our next show, why don't we tell the difference between a G-Tel and the coal-powered turbines?
Oh, then that's something Lucas will be very good at.
We'll let him handle the coal-powered turbine. You and I'll talk about the G-Tel.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
can
except
do
we'll have to remind him to shut the hell up at the 30-minute mark.
that. It's
Because
okay.
it's like Lucas, Lucas, Lucas. And he'd be like, what? And it's like, shut the fuck up.
We all
You
let our
passed your
train
time.
operate shit. So
You've passed your time on your stupid Baltimore and Ohio, whatever frickin' thing. No way, it was Chesapeake and Ohio. Never mind. Your
yeah.
Chesapeake and Ohio fucking steam turbine. We get it. Okay, thank you very much. Stop now.
Well, and those did work, but those were problematic.
Oh, like the G-Tels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. You just look at them and they go, "Oh crap."
All right.
And
Well,
the funny thing is some of these things you fire up, and if you're not looking at them, they're running fine. But as soon as you look at them, they go, oh, "Shit, someone's looking at me. I better mess up."
all right. Well, I got to go do dishes. Yay!
Right. Yeah, I should.
I get to be Cinderella.
Say, have we fired 325 up yet?
Yes.
And she runs good?
Yes. She just doesn't load.
Oh, well, shit.
She starts, she just doesn't load, which is funny as crap.
Right.
Also, before I do go, I would like it if you could come this Saturday.
Okay. I will see
because
what I can do.
One of my friends is coming from Texas. And
Okay.
I'm taking him to Jackson Street. And he's going to go work on trains.
Oh, sweet.
So if you want to see him.
Yeah. Maybe, and I would like to get into the cab of 6008. I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be fun.
So here's the thing, right? Remember the guy in that group I invited to named Dawnbreaker?
Yeah.
He's coming.
Oh, no kidding. Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna meet him.
I will have. Yeah, he's coming. Yeah, he's coming. He flies in
well,
Thursday.
Okay, sweet.
I will have cigars ready.
Sounds good. That'll be a good occasion.
All right. I will see you later, guy.
All right, brother. We'll see you Saturday.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Yep. All right, folks. That was episode 2 of Steel Rails podcast. Thank you for hanging in there with us the last, 5-10 minutes. Like I said, I haven't been to the museum in about a month, so I haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk with Bailey for a while. So I'm going to more than likely get out to the museum this Saturday, and I will take some pictures and video, and we can get that up on our next installment of Steel Rails podcast. I am not sure when the next installation of Steel Rails podcast will be. Don't know if it's going to be Saturday night or if it'll be next Saturday night, but just hang in there, and I will put a notification up or do a teaser video and put that up on either Facebook and YouTube. So I suppose it's 6 minutes past the hour mark. So thank you for everybody who's done a view. Subscribe, thumbs up. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the content. If there are any locomotives, steam or diesel, that you want us to cover, kind of like we covered the 4 tonight, drop it in the comments. Let us know. Or if you want to see something in particular, from a particular road or a particular manufacturer, let us know in the comments. So with that, I will sign off and say have a great night. Thank you for everybody, and keep it on the rails. We'll see you next time.